But as the Supreme Court recognized just 5 years ago, it was for the right of self-defense against some future government that would refuse to stand for re-election and would hold on to power by military might, and against lawlessness and heartless folks who would victimize others. That those who founded our nation made this right part of the supreme law of the land, forever trumping every president, Congress, and court that would ever hold office in the United States. That right to protect one's life and liberty is a God-given right. It is a gift from God, not a grant from government. The government does not give us this right, just as the Declaration of Independence makes clear. Government does not give us any of our inalienable rights. Instead, it is the role of government to recognize the rights God has given to each of us, to respect those rights and to secure those rights. That's what the Second Amendment does, and it is an essential right for every American citizen who is law-abiding and peaceable, regardless of skin color, geography, education, or socioeconomic status.
CURE has called this Black History Month press conference today to bring attention to the importance of defending the right of all Americans, guaranteed under the Second Amendment of our Constitution, to bear arms. Thank you for being here. We're gathered here today to provide a forum for Black leaders from the world of politics and public policy in Washington, from the business community, from academia, and from the clergy to express our deep concern about efforts currently underway to limit our God-given and constitutional right of self-defense. Although CURE is based in Washington, D.C., I am a resident of California. Thus, Senator Dianne Feinstein, the author of one of the proposals to advance government control over gun ownership, is my representative. CURE is hosting this press conference with the hope that the information we share today will serve as a reminder to Ms. Feinstein and to all other United States senators that Black history is rife with government demands to strip away our constitutional rights. We're standing here today because we believe that it is our duty as African American citizens to join together and challenge the gun control proposals currently being considered on Capitol Hill. 2 points. Number one, the call for universal background checks as qualifiers for constitutional rights invokes painful memories of Jim Crow laws and black codes. A substantial body of research already shows that gun controls empowers criminals and weaken law-abiding citizens. Regarding Black realities, Blacks are the least armed, least protected and defended, and the most assaulted citizens in our country. According to a recent Pew Research Center survey, 42% of whites and only 16% of Blacks say that they have a pistol or rifle at home. Can anyone whom God has blessed with a brain actually think that universal background checks in which some past legal infraction might nullify a gun application will not result in even fewer law-abiding Black men from obtaining a weapon to protect their families? And what about Black women? According to research published in the British Journal of Psychiatry by Dr. Priscilla Coleman, professor of Human Development and Family Studies at Bowling Green State University, meta-analysis studies show an 81% higher risk of mental health problems with women who have had an abortion. Will abortion be one of the questions on the universal background check application? Number two, the call for banning specific guns, as Senator Feinstein has proposed, is also problematic as it puts too much power in the hands of politicians and the law enforcement establishment, which cannot always be trusted. In a Pew Research survey, in 2009, 40% of whites compared to only 24% of Blacks said that they have a great deal of confidence in the local police to enforce the law. Law-abiding Black citizens live under siege in crime-ridden communities. Yet somehow they are supposed to buy the logic that giving more power to those in law enforcement already charged with maintaining order but don't, while stripping away the freedoms of those who do obey the law, will somehow make us better off? One question the gun control advocates are never challenged to answer for the most vulnerable in our country when they are moving to promote gun control is: how do you take a gun from the underground, the criminal, a racist cop, or a tyrannical government? Taking arms from the law-abiding many puts too much power in the hands of a perhaps ill-intended few. Black slave and Jim Crow history should serve as a clarion call that Americans of all backgrounds must fight this current round and all attempts of gun control. This Black History Month press conference is dedicated to the tradition of Black history legend Frederick Douglass, a runaway slave and great American orator who, as Cure Advisory Board member and Stanford Law professor Marcus Cole reminded us, Douglass stated on this issue that a man's rights rest in 3 boxes: the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. Thank you.
How long? How many children has to die before we come to the conclusion that the issue about the Second Amendment is not about protecting kids, it's about changing the Constitution? How many children got to die before we admit that? How many children has to die before we come to common sense, which we have lost much in America today? It's not much common sense left. But how many of us are going to allow children to continue to die, to put signs in front of our schools to invite people to come in and kill them? What are you talking about, Pastor? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. How many of you would put in front of your house a sign that says gun-free zone? How many of you will put in front of your house, I have diamonds, I have gold, I have silver, I have precious metals, I have some great expensive artifacts, and I am not home. My dogs that are guard dogs are locked up, and I won't be home until 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. Would you put that sign in front of your house? But yet and still we want to put gun-free zones in front of our schools. How many black children has to die before you even care? Why isn't all the children that have been destroyed in all of our cities? Black on black crime. Don't get any front page news, but you get a Sandy Hook. And what happens? Everybody's in an uproar. We've had 10 times more African American children killed with guns. Because you know what? How many children have to die, black and white, for us to come to the conclusion that most of the gun violence is in cities with the most gun control? When are we going to change our minds and put some common sense in there? When are we going to come to the conclusion that privacy may not be as important as a life? We need to know how many children is going to die before we change the HIPAA laws. How many children have to die before we get these lunatics, half of them, and people with mental issues off the streets? But because of their privacy, we can't do anything about it. And oftentimes families struggle to get them institutionalized. So how many children, and last of all, how many children has to die, my friends, before we come to the realization that a bad man with a gun can only be stopped by a good man with a gun? Thank you.
Our business owners, many of them have retail stores, they have restaurants, they have cash operations. One of our previous board chair has a concrete plant in New Orleans. After Katrina wiped out everybody, streets, curbs, driveways, his business was booming. But he had to have Brinks trucks come to his company twice a day, and he had 2 of his employees armed to the teeth, because he was not going to let his business go down because of some bad guys. I want to thank the Lord for our Constitution. I also want to thank the NRA for its legacy. The National Rifle Association was founded by religious leaders who wanted to protect free slaves from the Ku Klux Klan. They would raise money, buy arms, show the free slaves how to use those arms, and protect their families. God bless you. Many of us probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the NRA. Rodney King showed an interesting model. When the riots started in LA and they started wiping out neighborhoods, mostly in South Central, when the rioters got to Koreatown, the violence stopped. Because every male Korean associated with those stores stood outside, they drew a line and held their weapons. Come across that line, you're dropping. And they meant it. Okay, let's go back to South Central, because people there don't have guns to protect themselves. It is a right just to live in Southern California, where I'm from. You've got diamond head, copperhead rattlers. You've got scorpions. You've got coyotes. You have mountain lions. One of my neighbors lost his German Shepherd to a mountain lion that came into his backyard. The German Shepherd put up a fight. All he could do was watch because he didn't have a gun. Just a fire in the air to scare the mountain lion. And the shepherd went off with the mountain lion. What if you're living in Florida and a python snake's in your yard between you and your infant child, or between you and your pet? What are you going to do? I think God gives you the right, and the Constitution does, to protect that child or that animal or your house. My people are from Louisiana. You're fishing, water moccasins, alligators. They show up. They don't knock on the door. You got to deal with it. You don't walk outside. If you're a farmer, you have to deal with these varmints. So it's part of our lives. But what's going on here, I think, politically, in this town is a mind game. This is a diversion to keep you off the thought of this poor economy, which generates crime. This is about crime, and it's trying to divert your attention away from it because they can't create jobs. I've got two quotes from people who know what they're talking about. Bruce Weinberg, PhD, Ohio State University. Public officials can put more cops on the beat, pass tougher sentencing laws, and take other steps to reduce crime. But there are limits to how much these can do. We found that a bad labor market has a profound impact on the crime rates. The Review of Economics and Statistics. As wages go down and unemployment goes up, crime goes up, driving businesses and residents out of the community. This in turn causes more unemployment, which causes more crime, a spiral dive situation from which it is difficult to recover. My friends, what we need to do is create jobs, create businesses. Small businesses hire 70% of all the new jobs. They create a thriving economy, less crime.
I'm not going to be nearly as eloquent as the speakers that came before me, and a lot has been asserted here. But let me just briefly say that gun control, for black Americans, we know that gun control has ultimately been about people control. It sprouts from racist soil, be it after or during the infamous Dred Scott case, where black man's humanity was not recognized. And the beauty about some racists is that sometimes they're blatantly honest. And the racist Chief Justice Taney said, we cannot allow the law to recognize the humanity of this individual because he would be able to keep and bear arms. When a lot of Democratic-controlled segregationist governments after the Civil War attempted to deny black men and women their freedom, they instituted black codes, largely to deny the Second Amendment from newly freed slaves. And so today in our urban centers, innocent black folk may not be the victims of the Klan or of white racism, but we are the victims of merciless criminals that are armed and don't give a darn about gun control laws. How dare you talk about taking away a constitutional right? The Second Amendment is not about guns. It's about freedom. It's about liberty. And it's about full humanity of decent people. You know, many of us gun rights advocates, my father, Roy Innis, chairman of the Congress of Racial Equality, serves on the board of the NRA, and I want to thank Harry Alford for his powerful words about the NRA and the history, the right history of the NRA, which was established not only by religious leaders, but by former Union soldiers that were disturbed that Southerners could shoot straighter and better than Northerners in the Union Army.